Going live.
Oh boy.
Hello and welcome to An Evening with Comrades. Special welcome to everyone joining us from Vosh's channel. Welcome new comrades. Tonight we have with us Crypto Rob.
Hello.
We have with us again DipDap.
Yeah.
We have with us Senna.
Hello.
And joining us as well is Porku.
Hello.
Welcome to everyone. Tonight we're going to be talking about YouTube and their decision to crack down on certain types of videos, 9/11 conspiracy videos, harassment videos, and also talking about how they're not doing enough against Steven Crowder. I believe they've decided to demonetize Crowder, but not actually take any other action against him. So, comrades, how do we feel about YouTube and, in a sense, more broadly, are corporations even on our side?
No.
Yeah, I mean, podcast over, boys.
They're on the side of progressive liberals because it makes money.
I would
Exactly.
disagree with that entirely. They're not on anyone's side but themselves. It's to their own convenience that they're even doing this.
Exactly.
They're
Because
on whatever side makes them the most money at the
Exactly.
time.
Like,
Well,
I can actually think.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. That was
That was Evening with Comrades.
Well, I can actually think of something similar, actually. Not relating to YouTube or anything like that, but basically you're talking about maybe 4 years ago. There was a British Nazi group called National Action. Anyone familiar with them?
I'm afraid not, sir.
Yes.
No.
Right. Essentially, what happened was this group was like kind of it had problems with like people with terroristic intent. Like from the beginning, there was actually one of their members in 2015 who attacked a Sikh man in a supermarket with a claw hammer and machete
oh,
and
Jesus.
almost killed the guy. He was thrown in prison for life, but it took the British government an additional another year and a half. Took them almost 2 years for them to ban this group under the Terrorism Act, despite the fact that they were calling for violence, openly violent from the outlook, and just obviously had people in it that were very deeply disturbed and willing to commit violence. And to be honest, I think it's kind of comparable that the British government only really banned them when they realised, oh wait a second, these people are keeping these guys free and on the loose was going to look badly on us as a government. So let's shut them down.
so
They've outlived their usefulness.
So they only took action when it would look bad if they didn't.
Yeah, and the thing that the straw that broke the camel's back was when the MP Joe Cox was assassinated in I think it was June 2016. One of National Action's regional branches actually said, "One down, only 649 MPs to go."
Oh boy.
Oy.
And they actually took the slogan of her killer and used it on their website.
Hey,
Oh boy.
someone in chat said that you're a bit loud.
Yeah,
Could you?
I sorted that out.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Okay.
So I guess the parallel there is that do you think YouTube only started acting on in a very superficial way, acting on these 9/11 conspiracy videos and harassment videos because it would look bad if they didn't?
Yeah.
I would actually have to disagree.
Oh, really?
It's not so much about optics. I don't think they honestly care. It's that because back in 2017, according to a report by Bloomberg, I can put it in the chat if needed. But basically, YouTube already knew this. Sure, I'll put it in the chat. But basically, YouTube already knew this was a problem. Their employees were actually mentioning how the rise of extremist content was becoming a problem back in 2017, but they did nothing because their major concern was retention. And coincidentally, also in 2017, after this report aired, to my understanding, advertisers started pulling funding. because for some reason you don't want to be associated with Holocaust denial. I can't imagine why, but what I'm saying is it's not even about optics. I don't think they really give a shit. It's about them trying to protect their basically their dragon's hoard. Like, they don't care.
Mhm.
Yeah, they just want to keep as much like viewer retention stuff going on as possible.
Yeah.
And they don't particularly care about the consequence unless there's enough public pressure that they start losing advertisement over it. Then they kind of have to care, because that's fucking them over in another way.
Yeah, I
Right.
completely agree.
It's not a good face for them right now. Basically, in the
So,
current climate, it's not a good face for them.
are they doing enough though? Because I believe they said they're changing the way, changing the way they review reported videos. If I understand correctly, is that actually going to be enough?
When is it done been enough?
What was that? Sorry, you cut out.
Like when is anything YouTube's ever done been enough or actually useful?
Pretty much never.
Like,
Yeah, good.
honestly,
Yeah.
I can't trust like the people who run YouTube to tie their own damn shoes.
Yeah,
Even if they're like those Velcro fucking like light up Skechers.
Just like they just, instead of like, tying, they just yank the Velcro off.
And call
they
it
just
done.
put the shoes on their ears.
Yeah, they
Like,
don't
I
do
think
anything.
that's how this works.
And like, what I think is gonna happen is they're gonna be like, so we have to change it. So make the bot more intensive, and even if it mentions it, we gotta do it again. So like, they're just gonna make it worse for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even people that are out here like making videos trying to debunk conspiracy theorists, they're gonna be like, it's in the tags, so it must be delete button.
yeah, they're all.
Yeah, they're not going to put any effort into actually making whatever stuff they're using for this competent.
Oh no, it's already.
Yeah.
We've already started seeing side effects. Like, they, to my understanding, they've already. I'll put it in the chat, but they already took down the movie Triumph of the Will as part of this new, like, as part of this new algorithm. And while I might think Triumph of the Will is probably the most overrated film in cinematic history, like, it still has historical merit. That doesn't exactly bode well for the algorithm's future.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
Like,
Someone in chat, are you for or against YouTube being regulated on removing hate speech? I feel like the government, though also full of capitalist dipshits, would do more as long as it wasn't protecting Crowder types.
No. Here's the thing. I doubt YouTube will ever go against people like Crowder, because here's the thing. He's larger than pretty much any Flat Earth or 9/11 conspiracy channel put together. He's too much.
Oh yeah.
He's too large. He's basically too big to fail, because conservatives on
He's-
the line of.
He's a brand.
Oh yeah, he's a brand.
Yeah.
And consistently created a situation where basically any form of content moderation leads to them decrying censorship. Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no. Crowder's been around for what, 11 years? He's been around since the genesis of this platform, basically.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking OG. He's fucking popular, and because of those two things, they're not gonna do anything about him. He makes them too
Yeah.
much money.
No, because
He's the
'cause we-
groundwork of conservatives on YouTube.
absolutely, because I used to be a bit of a, back when I was younger, I used to be debatably alt-light, kind of close to getting fash-pilled, and Crowder was one of the person on that pipeline initially when I was younger. Like, he's been around for a fucking while.
I used to be a bit of an anti-SJW back, few years ago, back when that was the big thing. And one of the only reasons I didn't watch Crowder was because I thought his voice was obnoxious.
I mean, it is, and that, as a comedian, I have my opinions of him, namely that he's as funny as the Rwandan genocide, but I mean...
Oh my god!
I remember, like, being a child, and, like, I was, like, a small child, and I was like, I'm on fucking, like, YouTube, because I'm in the office in my house, and I hear on TV someone say abortion. I didn't know what abortion was, because I was, like, 9 or 10. So I look it up on YouTube, and the first thing I find is Steven Crowder's song about abortion being bad.
His song.
Oh dear.
A song. This is a vivid memory I have.
Did it slap though?
No!
I mean, it's right wing songs about abortion. Does it slap? It slaps about as hard as a fucking mallet. Also,
That is good for your brain as one too.
Got him.
I mean, to be honest, I think Crowder would benefit from the use of a mallet to the forehead.
I mean,
It was 10 years ago. I found it. I found the video.
Oh,
oh,
fuck.
fuck.
Oh no!
Oh, God, oh, fuck.
So most of his money comes from Patreon and other larger conservative media group backers, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also, it would also be merch sales as well.
Does that then make YouTube demonetizing his videos ineffective?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But here's the funny part: I'll find the tweet, but YouTube basically stated that Steven Crowder wasn't demonetized for anything he did to Carlos Meza. He was demonetized because he was linking to some debatably controversial merch.
Ah, yeah. Could you update anyone who doesn't know about his harassment of that person?
Okay, so the long and short of it is that there was a journalist from Vox called Carlos Meza, gay, Latin American background, and may have had sort of a back and forth where basically, Carlos would upload a video and then Steven Crowder would basically make a 20-minute long spurg out called Vox Rebuttal, number 1488 or whatever, Libtard Zone, Gangnam Style or whatever, I don't fucking know. And in this latest, he basically argues again. Carlos basically says, all right, the harassment's kind of getting out of hand because basically, Steven Crowder referred. Am I allowed to say what Crowder said or?
Content.
I mean,
just give it a content warning.
Yeah, homophobic and racist shit. Basically, be queer and an anchor baby, stuff like that, and so stuff that wasn't exactly terrific. And then he just basically called out YouTube saying, hey, this is a kind of environment, you do something about it. And then YouTube said, no, we're not going to do anything. And then demonetized Crowder anyway. But that wasn't because of any of the content. It was because Crowder was promoting a shirt which he was wearing on the stream and still has it as his Twitter header, actually. Just a shirt that literally just has socialism as fag slapped on it. So basically it's like, it's okay if you violate our policy because you're big enough, but can you not sell a shirt that literally says fag on it? We're trying to be a progressive company here, guys. Come on.
It's pathetic.
Like, it kind of exposes this whole attempt to YouTube. It just makes it look like a fucking joke because they're not going to be even-handed in the slightest.
Yeah, just like, congrats on pussing out, I guess.
You absolute cowards.
Yeah.
Happy Pride Month, everyone.
Yay. Speaking of, like, how can we construct a good enough argument to show, say, liberals that, these corporations aren't actually on our side? YouTube isn't actually going to do enough to get rid of crazy right-wing harassment, Holocaust denial videos,
like Holocaust denial and all this shit.
Yeah, and fashion companies changing their logo, police stations changing their cars to have rainbow flags on them. Like, how do
the funniest one I saw was the Australian Department of Home Affairs, which is, for those of you that aren't aware, because you know how in Australia we kind of have a really big problem of detaining and torturing refugees that are coming over to the country by sea. And so
Manus Island?
Yeah, Manus Island and Nauru as well. And the Department of Home Affairs decided to just slap a rainbow flag on there, and I just kind of, at that point, I just kind of just broke as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I actually remember one time when I went to a Pride March last year, and there was a radical bloc at this Pride March that was comprised of, I think there was the IWW was there was a couple of anti-fascist groups, There was I'm trying to think of like any other. I don't think I
Like-
saw any red and black flags. I saw like a ton of Antifa flags, anti-speciesist action, anti-homophobe action. And here's I was one of the. I think there was like maybe only one or two people that were blocked up, and I was one of them. And like honestly, I'm pretty sure I was getting some glares from the cops for being blocked up. Like because there was because there was quite a large contingent of cops there, and honestly, I think just there was actually a really good post that was made on a page on Facebook called anti-homophobe action, I think is called on Facebook,
Mhm.
and if I can just find it here because I did share it. It's basically I'm going to put the picture in the group chat. This was
Right.
at London Pride, I think. Like, fucking look at that shit.
Oh,
Dopey
that,
Internet, it's great.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah, that's Manchester Pride, actually, I think.
yeah.
And
Fuck, I'd
it's
rather be
like,
straight than see that shit again.
Goddamn, Dip Tap. You're
What?
you're on the ball. Like you start talking about a picture, I'm like, oh, I better post that in the chat so everyone knows what we're talking about, and you're already posting it. God damn it, you're too good at this.
like, these, and the thing is, like, they have no like, they'll turn up at Pride with these floats, and they'll, like, say, oh, we're all progressive. They'll have no problem fucking throwing trans women in, men's prisons. They'll fucking
Right.
rob trans people of their identity and force them into an environment that they are in a huge amount of danger.
Right.
They've got no problem fucking violently mistreating LGBTQ plus people in fucking prison cells.
Mm.
So like,
I think
so it's
a lot of work has been done to get people to forget about the police repression of the LGBT community.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yep.
like
And not just the police as well, but a lot of these companies that are suddenly putting pride flag logos on their stores and whatnot for a long time would not hire LGBT people.
Yeah, and in some cases they still don't, even if it's like illegal and they could get in trouble for it. They're just like, I don't care.
I mean, it's basically just
they're-
them going, "Hey, now that your market will finally treat you like you exist, guys. Good job. This is great." But
Now let's commodify this group because I can now.
yeah, because
They're
now
not
that
even
it's-
treating them like people. They're treating them like just a consumer and nothing else. I mean, it's what capitalism does.
I mean, if anything, it's more like just they treat gay people like props.
exactly.
Like,
I think another sort of betrayal thing was the Mermaids charity that appeared on H Bomber Guy's stream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
not. Yeah, what happened with that?
Well, H Bomber Guy did the stream, really successful, over $300,000, I think. And then Mermaids on their Twitter said they want the a box full of bats in the chat says talk about Mermaids charity supporting cops recently, and Eugene.
What?
Yeah, Eugene told me about it, and they said, oh, we want to do more to support the police. And then it was basically, everyone on Twitter just giving them shit. Lots of people like trying to point out all the shit that Rob just mentioned.
Police. Yeah.
So
That's just depressing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that happens nowadays. I don't want fucking rainbow cops. I don't want cops.
Next.
But the thing is, to bring it back to what TK was saying, is like, how do you actually convince a liberal that they shouldn't want cops, especially in this context?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to do. That's the thing.
Could it?
Because like
Go ahead.
they're not gonna like listen to the historical context of things. They're gonna be like, but it's different now. It's not gonna be like you bring up like Stonewall or anything. No. They're gonna be like, but those cops aren't cops anymore because they're dead or some shit, and they're not gonna actually do anything about it. So you can't really do much.
Well, with that line of reasoning, you could say, for example, yeah, they weren't these bad cops are dead, but that doesn't mean they didn't have an influence on future generations in the police force.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. We know that. We understand that fully. But like liberals don't look that deep a lot of times, I think.
Well, that's what happens when you have faith in an institution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think like one of the things that kind of helped me when I was kind of doing that sort of transition, I guess, from being, more of a liberal was like I was looking at a lot of leftist stuff and I was like, I don't know how much I agree with all this, but whatever, I still just giving it an honest look at and stuff. And I just kind of started seeing like, just more of these, experience of like cops being like, absolute fucking shit bags and just, I guess it was just a matter of, I started seeing the pattern and there hit a point where I just couldn't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain.
Like
I think with stuff like that, there's no one thing you can say to someone that's going to make them be like, oh shit.
Right, you have to go way more into it.
Yeah,
you have to be way in depth, and you have to be very educated on the subject. And I mean, honestly, you can't really ask everyone to be fully educated on this subject to know every little thing that cops are bad for.
Yeah, because I mean, on one hand, it might be tempting to say, for example, take inspiration from what the far right is doing and how they've gained as much attention as they have using similar tactics. Don't you want their shit back in the day, like when I'd say they flared up around Gamergate, and that's what I'd say be the instigating factor. They use that explosion of attention and just shit posted their way to political relevancy.
Right.
But I don't know if we should do that. Like, it kind of would it just delegitimize?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I've heard beforehand, like, that, I've heard, like, people say, oh, the left should take a leaf out of the alt-right's book and, throw away the black bloc, throw away the masks and don suits and ties and have big conferences.
Oh, fuck that.
Oh, God.
Fuck that. Literally, go fuck yourself with a pike if you think that that's the way forward for the left.
It's like, let's just completely throw away all of our history. This will be great. This won't let people call us disingenuous at all. I swear, guys.
Yeah. That, and look at the alt-right today. Richard Spencer, Baked Alaska, all these people, where are they now? Like
close to
kicked out
in
of
their
their
mother's
home.
basement, normally.
Like, they enjoyed brief relevancy from 2016 to 2017, and then they just died.
Yeah, like, it got them attention, like, in the short term, but a lot of it's kind of died, especially after, like, the Charlottesville protests. Those,
Charlottesville.
the right really showed how ugly it was there, and a lot of people were just not having it.
It killed them.
I would disagree that it killed them. I think it just means they're sleeping. Because
it
they
hasn't killed them, but it definitely hurt their image.
I think we talked about this on the previous evening with comrades. It's the consensus on that one, or the synthesis, if you will, was that the right has gone underground. They've tried to be public and put themselves out there, and all that happened was they got doxed and punched. Rightly so. But what they're doing now is going underground and trying to communicate in the dark, and the work that anti-fascists and leftists have to do is go into the dark, into the shadows, and squash every fascist bug that we see.
Oh yeah, no. As we talked about last time, that like I don't think the right is dead. No, obviously fucking not. But these individuals that the right iconized in like 2015 to 2017, those people are no longer relevant. I'm not saying the right is gone. Neither is like this alt-right, like neo-fascist kind of neo-reactionary shit. No, it's not gone, obviously. But the people that they brought to the forefront during that time are basically brain dead and in a coma.
Yeah.
The red mushroom in the chat says dormant, maybe, and I think that's very
Yeah.
true. In a
Yeah,
couple,
probably.
Yeah.
in a year or so, a couple of years maybe, when they can really sort out their funding, because I'm still going on the Bitcoin conspiracy thing. When they can get more proper funding, they're gonna come back. They're gonna start trying to go on college tours again, but not under the name of the alt-right either. It won't be Richard Spencer saying "Hail Trump." It'll be someone else saying traditional values or American values. Protect, like something that sounds really benign. But if you
I think it'll be tailored to each particular region that it flares up in. Like fascism in general, fascism takes the form of whatever country it's in. But what I also think it might not be a funding issue, because maybe this is just me being paranoid about how the things are going in Australia right now, is that I think if another event like the GFC were to happen, I think that'll force people, they basically just force everyone out into the open, and it is going to get ugly.
Right. It just depends on what happens, really. I mean, we can't make conjecture for the future, really. It's not really a good thing to be making conjecture.
Yeah,
For
I
us.
mean, you can do a bit, but like obviously it's got to be taken with the whole. You never really know.
You've got to know that what you're saying is only a 1 out of 1,000 possibilities.
Oh yeah.
We can make it a hypothesis, an educated guess. We can say, this is more likely than that, but we can't say that the less likely one is not going to happen either.
So in the meantime, what should we be doing then?
I'd say educating ourselves for one.
In terms of like how to combat like the right,
educating ourselves in our own ideas, in their ideas, and how to fight them.
Yeah, that and like I think it would really depend on like it's one of these things that like obviously culture's very unique. Like the right is not like you have this umbrella of right wing ideas, but they take different shapes based on the different countries that they're in.
Right.
In America, the right is kind of it's largely to do with hating a central government, being very protectionist, very isolationist, even,
and very filled with this like Protestant ethic.
Exactly.
I think since America is built on Protestantism, this is why I highly recommend reading Weber's Capitalism and the Protestant Ethic. I think the Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. Another thing, I have a very controversial take about what I just said.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh, here we go again.
Okay, it's a bit controversial that people say that I shouldn't do this. Pick up right-wing literature and read it so you know how to argue with them.
Oh no, that's fair.
Oh yeah, that's
I've had people say don't do that, but pick it up and engage in it and say, this is wrong, and know how to fight it, because you need to know what you're combating to know who you're combating. You have to know what you're combating.
Know your enemy, as Sun Tzu would
exactly.
say.
Yeah, like
as your local Chinese studier, know your enemy.
Exactly. Like, I mean, obviously, like with combating, the organized right, you're the ones who read things like Evola and Nietzsche and God forbid fucking James Mason. That might work, but at that point, it's important to know like what people you can debate with and what people that the only language that should be between you is a clenched fist.
Right, exactly. You should definitely know who you can actually combat, because you need to choose your fucking battles.
Oh yeah, I'd say that like if you're going to read things like Julius Evola and like Nietzsche and fucking cunt that wrote Camp of the Saints, like you read those kind of people. I think for reading those kind of people, the people that you'd largely be trying to combat would be those who like are just starting to get into it, and you're trying to steer them away from it.
Yeah, those are the people you have the best success actually arguing with. I think like the further down the rabbit hole you go, it's just not going to work. Like from my experience, any true blue, like honest to god alt-right or member or fascist is just impossible to even bother with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the thing is, someone, in order for what you say in a thing with them to really affect them much, they kind of need to be in a position where they're like willing to at least think about it. And most, outright fucking fascists, they're not interested in that. In fact, keeping their worldview stable is entirely dependent on being as resistant to that as possible. Because
Oh yeah.
they say reality has a left-wing bias for a reason, and you got to get pretty good at, cognitive dissonance and just completely denying how things actually work in order to actually have that sustain itself. Like,
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Like that, and bringing it back to what we talked about before, that's actually why I think Crowder has been successful as he has, because his whole business model has basically been, no, don't worry about it, guys. You're actually been what you thought has been right this whole time. Don't think critically about it. Like that's why these channels have been successful as they have, because they don't actually present a valid any argument. It's just a confirmation bias, because you're right.
They sell validation, basically.
I would say they just sell ideology.
Well,
Exactly.
validation of that ideology.
Yeah.
Ideology of validation. Sorry.
Whoa, yeah. Get a load of the society right here.
Huh. Well, I think that was a pretty good consensus on that. Any last little words on Crowder and YouTube and whatnot before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, fuck Crowder, fuck YouTube.
Fuck.
The only
Fuck Crowder, fuck YouTube.
The only good thing I can say about Crowder, well, two things actually. One, he looked really good when he got punched in the face, and the second one, the only other good thing I can say about him is that he'll eventually die like the rest of us. I mean, outside of divine intervention or Koch brothers funding.
Punch him more. Punch him more. Punch him more. Right, can we get a fuck Crowder?
I just want to say that EML doesn't. Its view on Crowder is not that of Crypto's. EML's view on Crowder is that he should be shot, not punched.
Okay, for legal reasons, we must say that we do not support violence.
Unless he
it's
gets
just a meme. It's just a meme,
It's
guys. We're not
just a
serious.
meme, guys.
It's just a prank, bro. It's just a social experiment,
EML does not endorse the use of violence.
I love how
Unless it
Depp
gets
has to
results,
moderate
which it
me
will.
on this.
I'm usually the one that's more vehement, but like EML does not endorse violence. Please do not give us a strike, YouTube.
So,
Also, fuck YouTube.
yeah, fuck YouTube. So just don't give us a strike, but fuck you. So just before we
Please.
move on, I want to let everybody know in the chat that we actually have a donation thing. I'll put the link in the chat. You can give us a little bit of money, and a little bit of money goes a long way to supporting the channel. And to anyone who does donate, thank you so much. And when you do donate,
Please give us some money, Mr. Obama.
Jesus. And when you do donate, your username will appear in the bottom left of the screen. And for some reason, Steam Labs OBS won't let me show you what that looks like for some reason. But it'll be there. To find out what it looks like, you got to donate.
I was going to say, Senna, for that little comment there, you've just Mr. Obama is going to give you a free drone strike.
Jesus Christ. So,
I woke up at 9 o'clock for this, people.
Hi, I do funny voices. That's the only thing of interest about me.
So,
Oh,
I
that's
think
harsh.
before we went live, we were actually beginning to get onto the topic of Brexit, mainly around how Theresa May has resigned and the Conservative leadership race has begun. And I think the question I'll pose to all of you guys is, in the case of a no-deal Brexit or any sort of Brexit, how can the left prepare itself? Or how can the left take advantage of it?
Because
Disregard
the way
Corbyn. Fucking
disregard
steal that
Corbyn, I can understand that. Like the way I see it is like Brexit will be the first time in recent memory that the UK will actually know what a honest to god crisis looks like.
Yep.
there is going to be a lot of people being very angry, and when people are in that state, it's up for grabs. You need to get yourself on the ground and try to sell yourself. You need to sell what you believe in, and this seems like the best time as any to at least try and make the best of a bad situation.
Exactly. What I would say is, like, for anybody who's hoping that Corbyn and the Labour Party are coming to save us, ditch that idea. That's not happening. Like, Corbyn is a spineless piece of shit, and to be honest, I think, from what I've seen, a lot of people tend to fetishize him way too much. Like, they tend to say, "Oh, Jeremy Corbyn, he's a fucking lad. He's one man Tory destroying machine." No, he's not. He fucking sat down and let the Tories get away with absolute murder, ravaging communities without so much as a squeak because they thought that the Labour Party was a government in waiting rather than, a fucking opposition.
Like you said it perfectly. Similar things have happened in this country, like with the Labour Party, also called the Labour Party, who have basically let the current government weaponize because currently we're dealing with a lot of federal police raids on journalists at the moment. And basically, they sat by and let the government weaponize what could be used legitimately for the state secret.
Oh, Jesus.
Dipped out. We're getting some weirdness on the mic.
Yeah, some
static.
Better?
That's better.
Yeah.
Happens occasionally.
Like, this is just the thing you have to deal with when it comes to people like that are basically sock dems. You need to realize that they're not going to be your friend when it matters.
Exactly. And I'd say that, like, an interesting thing that's going to happen in the event of a no-deal, so basically, in the past couple of months, there has been legislation going through the Scottish Parliament that's been pushed forward by the SNP, which is the Social Democratic centre-left government of Scotland that advocates for an independent Scotland. And essentially, this legislation is going to pave the way for a new Scottish independence referendum to be held either next year or 2021. I would encourage all leftists living in the UK and in Scotland to get behind this, because in all honesty, I'm not in favour of the European Union, not by a long shot. But what I will say, cutting off ties with our European comrades and making it incredibly difficult for us to go over there and support projects happening in Europe, and just kind of forming this kind of cut-off isolationist island, separate from all this, is not a good idea. And here's the thing: there's also just purely just it's not primarily just about getting away from wanting to rejoin the European Union, but the thing is, there was actually something that happened 2 days ago when Donald Trump was visiting the United Kingdom. When he was given a press conference, speaking about the possibility of a post-Brexit trade deal with the United States, he said that, quote unquote, everything needs to be on the table, whether that's the NHS or whatever. So there is a chance, in the event of an no-deal Brexit scenario, that our NHS is going to be ripped apart and we're going to get an American-style insurance healthcare.
Oof.
Oh dear God! I'm sorry if that happens.
You have my sympathies, dude. That's just horrific.
Fuck.
And I think in the case of supporting an independent Scotland, obviously nationalism is bad and trash, but the thing is, Scotland has a very difficult political makeup to the rest of the UK. Scotland, for the most part, is very left-leaning.
I had no idea.
Scottish nationalism tends to be synonymous with social democratic policies. Fun fact: there was actually a mass general strike that happened in Glasgow during the 1920s that the British government actually got so terrified by they actually had to send in tanks into George Square in Glasgow to stop it.
Jesus Christ.
What the fuck? I love Scotland now.
Glasgow grad.
But Rob, I actually have one question though, because I don't live in the UK, but one thing I'm interested about in the case of a no-deal Brexit is what do you think would happen to Ireland actually?
Well, thus far, in the event of a no-deal Brexit, there will have to be a hard border enforced between the Republic and I'm not even going to dignify it by calling it Northern Ireland. I'm going to go occupied Ireland. There is a chance that there will be a hard border, a very high chance, if there's a no deal, there will be a hard border between the Republic and occupied Ireland, and that violates the Good Friday Agreement. And
IRA
for those
boys.
Grab your
Time.
Exactly.
balaclavas.
Oh,
exactly
hell yeah, boys.
come out,
Seamus.
come
Connolly
out, you
lives.
fucking
Seamus,
Ten
get the
times.
fertilizer.
Connolly
I was born
lives.
on the street where the loyal drums do beat. Them loving English feet, they walked all over us. And every single night when me dad would come on tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with this chorus. Okay, I'm gonna stop singing and making everybody's ears bleed.
No,
I mean,
honestly, your singing sounds really nice. Like,
I mean,
just
yeah, it's
got
better
a
than.
very soft, nice voice.
It's very nice. I mean, I'm just looking forward to a new wave of Fenian posting. So really, we're just going to be
Please. Bring back Connolly from the grave.
it's time, boys. But yeah, so that because because generally speaking, from my understanding of the politics of the region, hard borders between the two islands have usually not been very popular.
No, they have not. And there's actually something like you've seen it. I mean, you guys will probably have seen it, but the IRA has been new IRA has been making a comeback this year, like to do,
Yeah,
but they've fucked up on numerous occasions.
yeah,
Is it
Like,
Yeah,
when
because
they-
they're basically the IRA in name only, right?
yeah, like
pretty
largely.
much.
so it's
What
not...
happened?
Sorry, go ahead.
Like, as I say, there is a chance that new groups would emerge post No Deal Brexit, but what I think is that the IRA and the new IRA in its current incarnation is it's not been doing a very good job. Like there was I'm not sure if you guys remember a couple of months ago when there was a journalist in Derry that was actually shot dead because she was covering a riot. Basically the new supposed new IRA gunmen. Well, actually, no, not supposed. They claimed responsibility. So, like, new IRA gunmen were shooting at the police who were armed, and these people from basically, according to the news and stuff like that, the people that the police service of Northern Ireland arrested were 18 years old. So basically, it was just a bunch of 18-year-old kids and basically they were shooting at the cops, and they ended up shooting this journalist in the head.
Oof.
Ooh, fuck.
So it was more of it wasn't so it wasn't like a deliberate political assassination. It's more of a crime thing.
No, it was an
Oh.
accident, but it still
yeah.
looks fucking horrible.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's true.
to be honest, it's an insult to the to the men and women that served in the provisionals during the 60s and 70s.
I remember meeting some people who were in Derry during the Troubles because he was an artist. The people that do the murals, because they came to my college for a thing.
Oh, nice.
They were interesting guy.
Yeah.
He's just an interesting guy.
But is there any? Do you think it's realistic, if there was a no-deal Brexit, because I understand that after Brexit, the EU would be very cagey about letting anyone break off from the EU after this. But do you think there's a chance that Northern Ireland might try to peace out and try to just join Ireland proper and become part of the EU again? Do you think that's practical?
There is a chance of that actually happening because there's already, I think it was one of Sinn Féin's leaders that actually said that if we are left with no way out other than a hard border, then the only way forward is a border poll and referendum on Irish reunification.
Jesus Christ! Even
What
with
does that be alive?
Even with the large amount of Ulster support,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, but the issue is with a lot of the Ulster people is it'd be interesting to see, but I don't think many people in Northern Ireland who are more loyalist would, if they're forced to choose between to be honest, I think most of them, if they were forced to choose between the UK and the EU, a lot of the older ones, the ones who were present during the Troubles, I think most of them would be because that's the thing, people in Northern Ireland do not want to return to the Troubles. They do not want that at all. and even the loyalists don't want to return to the Troubles. But the thing is, like, if you look at basically there's something that happens in Northern Ireland every year, round about June, July time. It's basically marching season, and essentially during this, you have a group called the Orange Order. Does anyone know about the Orange Order?
Yes.
I know they exist.
A little.
They are they're a Protestant loyalist group in Northern Ireland, and a lot of them have ties to loyalist paramilitaries like the UDA, like UVF, and
Mhm.
the order in
One of
itself
the-
is violent. Is violently
Yeah,
anti-Catholic.
the guy that I met who came to my college was on some sort of fucking like assassination list by
Yeah, they're
some unionist organization.
the Orange Order are nasty bastards. Like, they're very sectarian, very anti-Catholic, and basically what happens every year during marching season is they try to march through Republican communities,
Oof.
like through Catholic communities,
Oh God.
Ooh.
Just asking
and that
for
always
trouble.
and that almost always leads to riots. Like, almost always.
Oh, I wonder why.
So do you
And
think a hard Brexit with the border through Ireland will that intensify those marches that turn into
oh yeah,
riots?
like oh yeah, and here's the thing. Even like, I actually remember watching a Ross Kemp documentary on Northern Ireland. Like, at some occasions during these riots, the police barricades have actually been attacked with assault rifles and machine guns.
Ooh,
Fucking
fuck.
Jesus.
Jeez.
Yeah, like, honestly, there are guns up and down the length and breadth of Northern Ireland. Like, literally, the IRA didn't get rid of their guns; they buried them. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if there's a hard border, those guns will be getting dug up. And
Oh boy.
yeah, but on the whole subject of, like, Britain as a whole, now the current frontrunner for the leadership of the Tory party and the Prime Minister's desk is Boris Johnson.
Oh boy. He's
And
Oh,
he's
shit.
hard no deal Brexit, isn't he?
he has basically said the UK will be leaving the EU on October 31st, deal or no deal.
Cowabunga it is.
Exactly. And, right, here's something that you guys might not actually have heard of. In January of this year, it was revealed that the British government was looking into I think it was the Civil Contingencies Act, to find out how to implement martial law in the event of a no-deal Brexit.
Shit.
I did not
And-
know
Oh,
about
fuck, boys.
this
Yeah, and
happening.
Look,
it
I
was
mean,
confirmed.
if I get to, maybe I'll just go to the UK before that happens, so I could just lap V for Vendetta. That's pretty fun. But
And it was
But please go
it
on.
was confirmed. It was confirmed by I forget his Matt Hancock. He's a member of the British cabinet. He basically said, "Oh yeah, it's one of the plans, but we're not focusing on it just now. It's not likely to happen." Which is another way of saying yes, it's absolutely possible.
They have
it's
they
we're
have
not
Yeah.
ability
denying
to
it.
commit violence in the form of martial law, so
Yeah.
they're gonna commit violence in the form of martial law.
If they
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they can. It's just a matter of to what degree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. If they see any reason to, I'm fairly certain they will. To be honest.
Oh yeah, I'd say the
But-
first sign of any riot, they probably if it's if right long enough, almost certainly there's no chance in hell it won't happen. They wouldn't let like what's happening in France with the yellow vests happen in UK by any chance.
yeah.
Oh no, God.
And here's the thing: there are already 2,500 troops on standby in the event of a no-deal Brexit. That's already been confirmed. 2,500 troops.
Who's
And-
it been confirmed by?
I forget. I think it was like the MOD that confirmed it. I'll check it just now. But the interesting thing is, like, so this legislation is making its way through the Scottish Parliament, calling for a second independence referendum. Now, for the moment, the current First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, is saying that they're going to seek UK government permission to hold a second referendum, and the UK government has already said there will be no permission granted. And
Here's what you do:
Mm.
you have a referendum anyway.
that's the thing. If there is, Like, and if the referendum is held, how is the British government going to react to that if they've got 2,500 troops on the streets?
God, I love
And they're-
democracy.
And they're seeing all the oil fields that are in the northeast of Scotland and off the coast of Shetland. They're seeing all that disappear and go away. How do you think they're going to react?
Yeah, especially after
Violent.
having no deal with the European Union. Like they're going to have their backs against the wall.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think this means for leftists and workers alike in this scenario that you've painted?
I would
sorry.
honestly say, like in Scotland, I'm just gonna say in Scotland, the Scottish worker and Scottish people, like whatsoever, are not going to accept a military occupation. They will not accept that. And if the British government wants a second Troubles on their hands, like Troubles 2, Edinburgh Boogaloo, they can fucking bring it.
Fuck, Jesus Christ,
Because-
alright. SRA.
because-
again.
Like, I mean, you've had like the Scottish nationalist movement, like the Scottish independence movement, has largely been peaceful, and it's largely left leaning. How do you think it's going to transform when you've got literal soldiers like on the streets? And there's also the potential that they could dissolve the Scottish Parliament as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does the UK
Do you
have
think this
the
is
power
likely
do
to happen though?
I think that the dissolve of the Scottish Parliament bit, I'm not too sure. Again, this is like all, what if scenario. Like, it will all depend on how the British government reacts to a second independence referendum being called.
Yeah, like for all we know, they could just, do a bunch of saber rattling and have that be the end of it.
Hmm.
Because I'm
You
usually
cut out
skeptical of
there,
anything. Oh, sorry, got that Australian Wi-Fi doing the dog and the boys again. But like I want to believe that no one would be that insane. Like that would just be such an affront to any sort of illusion of being a democratic state. But it's worrying.
But what do the Tories already do though?
Oh yeah, shit, you're right. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in all honesty, when I go down to when I go down to the pub and I speak to people, because a lot of the people down my local are very anti-European Union, but they've said that ultimately, when it comes to independence, they will vote for what's best for Scotland. And if they see the NHS getting privatised, and if they see an American, the big thing will be is if the NHS gets replaced with an American insurance healthcare system.
Oof.
If that happens, you can bet your bottom dollar that Scotland is going to have some words to say with the British government.
This is the ultimate nightmare scenario where your country is invaded by corporations from America.
Exactly.
No,
And
like
that's the thing is,
wasn't that already happening? Because wasn't one of the, I'm pretty sure Trump mentioned this, or the Trump administration mentioned this at some point, that one of the trade deals involved with the UK post Brexit would be basically cutting down a lot of the regulations that existed in the UK. It's my understanding.
yeah,
Oh boy, I love economic imperialism.
just like
You're
that's
so
that's the thing.
great.
Is like, I hope you're ready for a McDonald's on every street corners, boys.
Mini embassies.
Gentrification.
Hello,
I can't wait to go
welcome.
down to the McEmbassy and get myself a McDemocracy. That was not that good. Don't laugh. Don't justify that.
Salute the
Well,
magic freedom sky cloth as you enter the embassy.
I guess you
Oh
could.
my
I guess you
God.
could say. I guess you could say that we are McFucked.
So how can we take this narrative and convince the Liberals to actually be on our side in a Brexit no deal scenario?
Honestly, I feel as though that is going to just. I know I'm going to sound like a massive fucking leftcom, but to be honest, we won't really need to do much because Labour's already pissed people off. The Tories are going to push people completely off the fucking shelf. And to be honest, I don't think most people in the UK, because right now, just looking at general election predictions, it's been predicted that the party that would win a UK general election, if there was one, would be the Brexit Party, and the one next to that would be the Liberal Democrats. Now, I'm just saying, when you're in a scenario where when you're forced to pick between centrist technocrats and right-wing nationalist xenophobes, you've essentially got basically a France-style scenario, and we all know where that goes. And
there comes a point where even your average person is, hey, there's something deeply wrong here, and none of this is the answer. And that's where we need to come in and provide the answers, I guess.
Yeah.
Zizek always talks about how we haven't provided the alternative. We have to provide the alternative.
Yeah.
Though I would say a way to go about it is to everybody tends to think we need to have massive campaigns. We need to have we need to open social spaces. We need to do this, that, and the next thing. The best thing that we can do in areas where there's largely liberal is literally just blanket every single street with stickers, posters, propaganda, handout leaflets. And here's the thing: in England, there is a big squatting community. You've got squats all over the place, especially in London, and most of them are radical leftist, anarchist, and they're kind of spaces for ideas to grow and develop. And in Scotland, where working class solidarity has kind of lived on, not as strong as it was back in the 60s and 70s, but it's still there. It would be, I think, in just talking on the lines of looking after your fellow worker and stuff like that would, but the other thing is for those people who are who don't really have that working class solidarity anymore, you really need to appeal directly to them and to their self, which is if you need to do this for your sake, your family, your kids, your grandkids, for your own personal life, because that's kind of the environment that Thatcher left us with, is the really individualist one, where it's you're only really meant to care for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you kind of directly need to appeal to that sense of individuality by saying, look, but I recommend doing this because it will benefit you in this way.
Right.
Huh. In terms of what Eugene wants to do, which is build the international left, how can we in America and Australia and Zimbabwe lend support to our comrades in England?
Right, when it comes to comrades in England, I would say that
UK,
in the event of in the UK, a way that would honestly, just if things go for the worst, honestly just put out calls for solidarity, raise awareness. I would say target things like embassies and stuff like that for protests. Basically, do not let ambassadors or representatives of the UK government in any country live a quiet life so long as there's martial law.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
I think that might be a good moving on point, unless anybody has any last words on Brexit.
To keep up with the current tradition this episode, fuck Brexit.
Yeah, fuck Brexit. Hope for the best, expect the worst.
Fuck
Pretty
Brexit.
much.
Fuck Brexit. Fuck Johnson. Fuck the Tories.
Hope for the best, expect the worst is my life advice today.
Good life advice. Harper, please don't bark.
Wait, what's the name of your dog?
Harper.
Harper? Okay.
Yeah, she's a little thing, and she kind of barks at everyone because she's a bit of a scaredy dog. But she's a sweetie. I post her frequently on my Twitter, as well as my two cats. They're wonderful.
Is everybody still right to keep going onto the third topic?
Oh, I'm sure, mate.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Well,
How amazing my pets are. Sorry.
Yes. Welcome to the Cute Pet Power Hour for.
Positivity.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to remind everyone that we do have a donation point. Dropping that again into the chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and to join us on the Discord as well. We also have a Discord server. There should be a link in the description already. I don't think I put it in. Apologies to Eugene. So, very recently-ish in Australia, the Australian Federal Police have raided the ABC and the homes of a journalist over leaks of Afghan documents. And the thing to note here is in the warrant itself, it allows the Australian Federal Police to copy, edit, and change any evidence that they find, which essentially gives them the power to do what Stalin did and re-edit things and photos. That was the hot take from Australia's media, was that this is Stalin level stuff, like bad take obviously, but yeah, it essentially means that the Australian Federal Police can go into any photographs, any videos of Australian soldiers murdering civilians and edit that part out or change it to make it look like anything they want, really.
Yeah, because I think it's worth mentioning for the people that don't know that are listening, the actual details of the Afghan files, that this story was published in 2017, if I'm not detailed, alleged basically war crimes allegations on behalf of the Australian military, including the killing of unarmed combatants. And to my understanding, they did end up finding the person who leaked this information, and that was himself a former member of the military. Himself was one that leaked it. And it just doesn't bode well for, because it doesn't bode well very well for our I'm sorry, I'm just a bit tired, but it doesn't bode well for our democracy realistically, because I mentioned this before, but because the military declared this information top secret, basically in our interest of our national security. But this national security, they are the ones that determine what is and what isn't a national security concern. So they themselves can afford to be as non-transparent as they want. They don't have to tell us anything, which includes war crimes allegations. And so basically it's led to the idea of a state secret being weaponized against the press here.
Fuck.
And look, while I would personally consider the current Liberal National Coalition in office in Australia, while I would consider them the grave diggers of Australian democracy, the equivalent of our own version of the Labor Party, like I've said before, have done nothing to help this. They've been entirely complicit in this. Like,
Did they lend their support to
it? To a variety of bills, yeah, including they've also started introducing new anti-encryption laws, basically to make it easier to access citizens' devices as well, and they were in support of that.
Ah, yeah.
To my understanding, Australia.
They brought in the backdoor access to all the encryption stuff, and then there was a huge compromise of security and encryption services through that back door.
Yeah, I know a few people in the IT industry and that absolutely, and software development as well, that shit them off, because it's like, hey, if you want to actually do anything and sell any software in this country, you have to make sure it has a built-in design flaw.
You're cutting out again.
I'm sorry, but to say what I said before, it's basically to a lot of people I know that work in software development, basically it's led to a lot of them being royally pissed off, because it's like, hey, if you want to sell this software in Australia, it has a built-in design flaw in it to actually be able to be sold, basically. And
Jesus Christ.
And like, this is kind of the culmination of everything, because to my understanding, Australia has implemented the most national security related laws in it of any Western democracy since 9/11, even more so than the United States.
Shit. That's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Look, mate, don't sell us short, boys. We when we want to suppress our people, we do it well.
Oh, fucking oath, mate.
Fuck.
No, I think it's like the martial law. The only difference
Oh,
between
he's going.
Oh,
Porky.
god damn it!
Could you try exiting the call and then
Can we
jumping
get an
back
F in
in?
chat for our boy?
You're at
Yeah.
that better?
That's better. What were you
Oh.
saying?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, Jesus.
basically, Rob.
We are not winning today, are we?
Australian internet noise, but
The
Okay,
Australian
let's try.
government wants you to shut up. That's
oh
what
yeah,
this is.
damn.
Shit, they're
Oh
on to
god.
us.
AFP, open up.
Oh no,
Hello,
my
NSA, but
tap's
down
leaking.
under. I promise we have nothing but praise for how amazing you are and how you will never do anything to stab us in the back.
Hello, ATF, but Australian.
So
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Holy
genuinely terrified
hell,
for the
yeah.
direction of democracy right now.
yeah, so it's a given. Australian media in general is all owned by Murdoch, and it's all
Mining companies or the banks.
yeah, it's all fucked. But what does this mean for, basic journalism in Australia and our forms of communication between, unions and comrades in Australia in general?
It doesn't bode well at all. I mean, if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free. But it doesn't bode well at all because this sets a very dangerous precedent for the powers that the Australian Federal Police have. Basically, anything, like I've said before, anything the state wants to declare a secret, it can and will. And that means anything from, say, for example, there was a controversy back in 2004. And if it happened now, I'd be interested to see how it would play out. But basically, when the Liberal National Party were in power under the John Howard administration, there were a lot of our workplace deaths due to union reps not being allowed on work sites. And I would be very interested to see how that would have panned out post this development. But the way I see it is that it's just because, as you said, the Australian media is very consolidated in the corporate sector. So already our means of actually gaining information, because the narrative is heavily controlled by capitalists, we're already kind of screwed, and this just makes things much worse.
Oof, give us an F in the chat for that one.
Just pouring out for democracy, boys. It's been
So how could how could we any other sorry, it's very early in the morning for me as well. How could we respond to this? Is it time? Is the focus here to fight back directly against this and to try to, through the media and whatever media we can, spread the anti AFP raids and fight against these powers, or is it or should the focus be on downloading encryption apps that aren't headquartered in Australia, so they still have proper encryption? Is it should we get I don't know?
I mean,
Tor
that
browser,
wouldn't.
maybe?
When it comes to that encryption, it wouldn't hurt necessarily. It'd be far from the worst thing in the world. But when it comes to actually complaining about the AFP raids, like I said, they're only a symptom of a much larger problem, which is that our national security is just been weaponized against us. Because, interestingly enough, a lot of former MPs are actually former military staff now. A lot of members of parliament now, and the government as a whole. It's become heavily consolidated. So it's just saying, hey, AFP raid's bad. Well, I agree with you. I really do. And that's a very good opinion to have. It's not going to stop the issue. And I don't know what really can, because we're pretty far gone.
Have we seen something like this in other countries, perhaps in the US? Because this sort of thing came in
Patriot Act?
Yeah,
The Patriot Act is probably the best thing I can think of.
Yeah, the Patriot Act probably, but the difference being that instead of being one piece of legislation, it was over years.
Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest thing for how to deal with this would just be to try and make sure that leftist communities, one, like globally, like it's just a good idea to do, but also that especially in places like Australia and the US where this sort of thing is a very real issue, it'd be a smart idea to make sure everyone's like really literate in that sort of technology that can help get around this sort of thing. That seems like the
Right.
best strategy to go with for the time being, at least from my perspective.
The two messaging apps that I would recommend for end-to-end encryption for any comrades in Australia that are not like the apps that are not based in Australia would be Signal and Wickr, spelled Wickr. If you can use those to keep in contact with comrades on the outside, because essentially when you can't really discuss these things in Australia, amongst Australians, like the thing, like I think the only route you can really spread awareness about it is to basically message comrades on the outside with encrypted messaging apps and basically
Right.
say, look, this is what's going on. The government's not letting us talk about it. Can you guys raise awareness on social media platforms?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree, but that also does raise a very real issue in Australia. I'm not sure if it's specific to Australia, but even compared to other Western democracies, the general public just does not give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, unless the only laws I've actually seen Australians get mobilized over recently would be when they started introducing what we call the lockout laws, where it would basically nah, mate, you can't serve Jaeger bombs at 1 a.m, and people got really pissed about that and nothing else.
You mess with Australians' alcohol, and shit gets done. Like, if the Liberal Party announced, all right, that's it, we're bringing back prohibition. Fucking
Oh yeah, there'd be revolutions in the
overnight.
streets.
Overnight, the government would be overthrown and Parliament House would be burnt down. But when it comes to real important shit like this near infinitely powerful warrant that the AFP have gotten and this encryption law stuff, most of the Australian general public, I will say, apathetic. I gotta say apathetic, and they also don't understand either.
Which kind of comes back to the whole lack of diversity, because there's pretty much no major news source that bats for the left, and so that narrative is being controlled very efficiently. And I'd also say it kind of ties into I don't want to sound like a massive suit here, but I think Australia does have a bit of a case of almost a cultural nihilism, sort of disguised as a she'll be right attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Britain has stiff upper lip. Australia's have nah, she'll be right.
yeah, that's basically it. It's a very convenient piece of social engineering.
Well, you made a good point about there not being a good media source in Australia that bats for the left, but there is a lot of media out there internationally. One of them being Eastern Marshlands. Like and subscribe now. It's just trying to get that to the average Australian doesn't quite work, because you end up handing out newspapers on a street corner, and then all of a sudden you're a trot, and
Oh yeah, I know those people.
yeah.
I think I'm still blacklisted by one of them. I think.
You're blacklisted by the trots?
Look, it's a long story, and there was a prop ice pick involved. And
Look, we're having trouble.
Look, I was like
stretching
20.
this
I was like
topic out anyway.
10 tinnies deep, man. It wasn't great.
Wait, why did you get a prop ice pick? You could have used the real one.
I'm sorry. Have you been to Australia? There's not a lot of ice to use ice picks on. They're kind of in short supply. I had to do what I could.
Oh, mining axe.
Oh fuck! I should have gotten one of those fucking toy Minecraft picks. That would have been hilarious.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Jesus. Tell
Now
this
I'm just
story.
picturing.
Tell this story now.
Look, it was very, very hazy, but basically, when I was because at my university, it's a group called the Socialist Alternative, though it varies from uni to uni and state to state. And generally, everybody hates these bastards, because pretty much what they will do is they'll set up in the middle of everything, be really obnoxious, handing out newspapers, generally making other leftists like myself look bad, and people have come to blows with them in the past. And Yeah, what ended up happening was one of my like this. So people, it's sort of a bit of a tradition to actually harass the socialist way possible. One of my personal favorite examples was some dude just black blocked up with a sign saying "Remember Constant."
Nice.
Jesus
Uh,
Christ.
but myself personally, it was mostly just I couldn't, because unfortunately I couldn't actually find an ice pick in time. So basically, it was far less funny than I was hoping to be. So basically, what ended up happening was I was 10 tinnies deep of like 4x Gold, Queensland's premier choice of shit beer. And basically, I was about to. Basically, what ended up happening is I tripped over and passed out onto one of their tables, which is not so much as funny as it is genuinely depressing. But they thought it was more of a genuine thing, like a malicious attack or something.
That is the most
basically.
that is the most Australian yet most left thing I can think of in that combination. A comrade so drunk that he collapses on the Trots newspapers and the Trots get mad.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think there's a real like Australian tradition to piss off the socialist alternative Trots. Like, did you see that there's footage going around of Anthony Albanese like having a go at some Trots, trying to have a go at him?
Look, I here's the thing: the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I really do not like Anthony Albanese. He's given up on there being any attempt at a class warfare narrative, which I would genuinely like, but there's no chance of any sort of radical leftism coming out of the Labour Party, and I can't really see why the Trots would try to argue with them, try to say we should have class warfare, because no one's going to take them seriously.
Yeah, it's.
They do their best.
They mean well, and I can respect them for that.
Back. Right. Hey.
Yeah.
So you're back. Good.
Yeah. When it comes to Trots and stuff like that, we have a very similar group in the UK called the Socialist Workers' Party, SWP, Swappies. They're fucking noxious bastards. Like, they have got a lot of shit. Like, they've got a record as long as my arm for like doing really stupid shit. Like, not just like co-opting protests. Like, literally every anti-fascist protest, every single fucking like Grenfell and stuff like that, and all the social justice marches, you will see fucking socialist workers' parties, like the placards being handed out like hotcakes. And these
and there'll always be one shitty newspaper as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, this party also has numerous allegations of covering up sexual assault and rape. And it's
that's not unique to the Socialist Workers' Party. There have been a few allegations of that amongst the Trots here down here as well, because it's just fucking haunted.
And that's the thing, is that just a thing with Trotskyist organizations, is that they tend to fucking...
I don't know why. Like, that seems to be a very pervasive thing, and I can't answer that question. I don't know why.
It seems to be a very... I think it kind of ties in with the whole... From what I know, Trotskyist, Trot groups tend to have a very cultish-like atmosphere, for lack of a better word.
Oh,
yeah,
man. The first introduction to Socialist Alternative I got, like a proper one, was my friend saying, the Marxism conference, yeah, it's run by a fucking political cult, and you could get the same amount of information from just Googling it. You don't need to pay $60 for a 3-day event.
But then again, like, here's the thing: you don't pay $60 to go to. When you pay $60 to go to the zoo, for example, you don't go over there for the scenery. You go there to sort of interact and sort of see things in their natural habitat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same line of reasoning that you would go to something like a Marxism conference in Melbourne run by the Socialist Alternative. You're there more for it's more for the spectacle.
Pretty much. You sort of find a fellow comrade who's also laughing at the side, and you just sort of sidle up to them, hand them a VB, and it's like, oh, check out these fucking people. And then you gently sit down in your armchairs and tell the Trots to self-crit.
Oh god,
I-
like
I-
fucking.
I wanted to rock up to the Marxism conference in a radio-controlled lounge chair, smoking a pipe, and just yelling at them to self-crit while driving around the conference.
That sounds like this is what accelerationist left com is. That's what it looks like, man.
Accelerationist left com with egoist characteristics.
God damn.
Like,
Those are like the three worst ideologies I could think of, but congratulations, you put them together.
I mean, like, here's the thing. I actually remember the Socialist Workers' Party, actually. This was back in October time, actually. I went, basically at my university, we have like a canteen building, where all the students go and eat and they go speak to, people at the university, the sport hub and stuff like that. I went there with my friend and I saw like two fucking swappies handing out newspapers to students like at the gates, at the doors of this canteen place. It's just their main support base is students, and here's the thing: they try to go after students, but the thing is, do you want to know the age demographic of the people that were handing out the newspapers?
They weren't students.
They were 50-year-old men.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'll be thankful in saying that it's usually on my end. It's usually not 50-year-old men that are trying to seduce students into this political cult. Usually it's, post-grads at the very latest. Or, people that still have some enthusiasm before it's beaten out of them by, existing in this world.
I had, since we're all sharing stories, I had a Spartacist do like some slightly stalkerish stuff. Because I was at the big Change the Rules rally, and I bumped into some guy handing out a newspaper. I'm like, oh, I guess he's a trot. And I look at the paper, and I'm like, oh, this is a weird take of a headline. I can't remember what it was. And he says, oh yeah, we're the Spartacist group with this and blah blah blah, talking about this. And he notices my friend's anarchist pin, and he says, oh man, the anarchists in northern Spain, they hopped the barrier and helped the fascists. And I'm like, you fucking what, mate? Jesus, I regret signing your petition now because you've got my my phone number. And then a couple of months later, he calls up and says my real name, which I never gave him. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Oh
buddy.
shit, here we go.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, sure, comrade. You do you, buddy. I can't come down to Melbourne for this thing. Sorry. Yeah. All right. See ya. Block the number straight away. And then he emails me. I'm like, oh jeez, no, God, no. But luckily, I blocked the email and I haven't heard from him since. So if you think the trots are bad, the fucking Spartacists know where you live.
I have no idea what the fuck a Spartacist actually is. I mean,
I don't either. Like,
I don't think I want to know.
Don't think they know.
this guy called himself a Spartacist, and that's all I know. The Spartacist League could be like anything at this
I'm looking
point.
this shit up.
Oh boy.
Well, like, that would be like the German Revolution.
Yeah, like the Spartacists in Germany were Luxembourgists and Orthodox Marxists. These Spartacists that you're talking about, and basically the Spartacist League, it's the name of various trot organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, it's always I don't think I think probably the nastiest interactions I've ever had with any Authcoms have been Stalinists and trots.
The first step towards left unity is getting rid of the trots.
Exactly, literally just
No, like, 'cause I genuinely believe left unity is pretty much the only way we're going to have any sort of, or at least left cooperation is pretty much the only way we're going to have any chance at, getting anything done. But on the other hand, I mean, Stalinists, they can be, from my experience, have actually been fairly hit and miss. Some of them have been sympathetic to anarchists. Some of them have just
Hit or
been fucking
miss.
toxic.
I guess they always miss, huh?
Oh my god.
right. Personal,
timeless, mate. Timeless.
Like,
But
as I say,
TK's power.
personal story time. I have actually, outside of Twitter and outside of like like social media and stuff like that, most MLs and specifically MLMs like Marxist-Leninist Maoists are actually really decent people. Like
Oh, absolutely.
I've actually got a fucking I've actually got a red cap on my fucking shelf from the Turkish communist group TKP ML Tico. Just sitting there. I've got a hammer and
Nice.
sickle bandana that came from a French Maoist group, and because I made a couple of posters for them and helped them out like graphics wise and stuff like that. And honestly, they from my own experience, like I know comrades in France who are ANCOMs, like ANCOM through and through, who still work alongside and within Maoist groups, because Maoism is actually very big in France. Like
I wouldn't have
It
guessed.
has been since its genesis.
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah, the 60s, the Mao, yeah. They've been around for a long time.
yeah.
I just had the thought of like Jason Unruh doing a French speaking tour, and I don't know if I want to see that.
Jesus.
Honestly-
You're telling me you don't want to see that?
Okay, yeah, you're right.
I am seconding that notion.
Imagine Jason Unruh with a yellow vest on, charging the French cops, and then get shit kicked out of him.
Oh my god.
Look,
That's
normally I'm
Mohawk and
against
all.
police. Look, I'm always against police brutality, but that one instance, I'm not going to say no.
I think in that occasion, the yellow vests and the police would actually shake hands and kick the shit out of him collectively.
Alright, so on the left Unity shit list, we have Trots and Jason Unruh so far.
Yeah.
Nice
Like,
balls.
just out of what I've looked into, American MLs are pretty, at least their organizations are very questionable. On one hand, they do some good shit, but on the other hand, they also do a lot of bad shit.
Wasn't there...
Apparently Greek MLs are really bad.
They are. They're TERFs. They work
They-
with that same thing. They're
They
TERFs,
work with
reformists,
Golden Dawn.
Oh yeah,
and they
that
work with
was
the police.
yeah. So you kind of already sold out there. I mean, the Greek anarchists are based as hell, but I mean,
A lot from my own knowledge, a lot of Greek anarchists are nihilists, insurrectionists, and egoists.
I mean, egoism. I mean, as someone who used to, I mean, I've still got a fucking copy of Ego and it's own somewhere around here, but like I used to be big into that, and I kind of just burnt out on it. But nihilist insurrectionism, it's sort of like, I guess, a guilty pleasure as far as ideologies go for me.
Oh yeah,
It's like-
Delving into Ego, a guilty pleasure by Porku.
and it's like, and the whole thing is like, from my own experience, the like Maoists in France and in Turkey are based as hell. Maoists in the US are fucking trash. Like, Maoist organizations in the US are trash. Like,
Like
Yeah.
most
From
things
what I-
in the US,
like,
honestly.
like, I actually have someone I know who like constantly advocates in favor of the PSL, and just looking at the PSL at face value, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, fam.
So if,
PSL's fucking horrible.
if the people we've mentioned right so far are the bad, then what's the good in our respective countries? What are some good organizations we could get along with or even organize with?
I've seen some good anarchist groups in the US, though they're all very small, and I would need to go actually looking up names again. Because
Yeah.
I'm really bad with names.
In the US, as far as I'm aware, the revolutionary abolitionist movement is fucking based. The base, if you like Google them, which is kind of an anarchist social center in Brooklyn, if memory serves me correctly, is also
Mhm.
great. In the UK, the ones I can't exactly say which ones are good, because that's the thing. Most good UK anarchist groups are groups you can't simply walk in and join. Like, speaking from personal experience, the best anarchist groups in the UK are ones that you can't really just walk in and join. Like, you need to know people.
I mean, that's probably a good. I mean, for the size of the group, that makes sense because
That's
you
a good
don't
thing,
want
honestly.
because you don't want
yeah,
cops and larpers joining in.
but the ones I can definitely tell you in the UK to stay away from: Class War, Class War and the Anarchist Federation.
I'm not familiar with either of those groups. What anything? So what?
The Anarchist Federation, from like they're kind of like they're largely hobbyists. Like they will show up to protests carrying red and black flags, but they will not mask up. They will go to no measures to protect their identity. Which again, if you're an anarchist and you're looking to get involved, you cannot trust them to protect your own. You cannot trust them to protect your identity. They're good in terms of disseminating informational material and pamphlets and stuff like that, explaining anarchist theory and anarchist philosophies on work and sex work and gender. They're good at that. Are actually organizing? No. Class War used to be good in the 1990s. They're an old anarchist group in the UK, but the thing is, most of them are in their 50s and they're very much into the whole crust punk sectarian aesthetic. Crust punk sectarian, no reading any theory whatsoever. They're just oh, fuck the rich, fuck the rich, fuck the rich, fuck this, that, then the next thing. It's no fucking theory, no analysis.
No theory, all praxis.
No, not even praxis. Do you want to know what the two most notable things I've seen them do recently?
Mm-hmm.
In the past 5 years. One of them, basically, one of the things they did was at the end of I think it was either the end of 2014 or the end of 2015. They attacked a hipster cereal cafe in Shoreditch in London.
What the fuck?
And
Epic.
then they also have held protests outside a fucking Jack the Ripper museum in London as well.
What? Why?
Okay, that's weird.
And from my own experience, a lot of people involved with Class War are very turfy.
Oh god.
Oh, terrific.
Very turfy and just overall, most of them are in their 50s and 60s and they're long past the days of they're just trying to relive they're basically just undergoing a midlife crisis, to be quite honest. They want to relive the days of the youth and go out and shout at cops and shout fuck this, fuck that, and it's just you're not fucking anarchists. You're people who want to go out and start shit up just because it gets yourself off. They're not this thing. It's not even that they're addicted to violence because there's no fucking violence.
Oh.
And I'm just saying, because I remember Red Mushroom in the chat saying, thoughts on Extinction Rebellion. Stay the fuck away from them.
Oh,
Stay far the fuck away from Extinction Rebellion.
They'll fucking basically sacrifice you to the cops.
What's
and that's the thing is,
Rebellion?
they are a group that was formed to quote unquote fight climate extinction. And
Okay, we're off to a
the
good
people
start.
that have been supergluing themselves to different things.
yes,
Oh.
yes, that's the ones.
Oh
And
god.
their whole modus operandi was get as many people arrested as possible. And I actually remember one of the key organisers in the London protest that happened a month or two ago. One of them actually went up to cops and said the arrests aren't happening quick enough.
Fuck's sake.
The whole point.
That's just.
So they're selling out.
That's the sort of thing that makes me suspect if maybe they're actually just a huge psyop trying to get people in trouble.
Yeah, one thing I highly recommend is honestly look around for people to organize with. Don't even look for an organization per se. Do look for organization, but also look for just people.
Oh yeah, I guess that raises an interesting question. Because in some regions, like Australia being one of them, there aren't really many, or if at all, any sort of groups that you could sort of already rally around. So I guess this could be an interesting question. How would you go about starting your own, or just trying to convince your friends and colleagues to actually give it a try?
Don't
make one. Don't LARP.
Okay.
Don't go to your friends and say, "All right, guys, we're going to mask up. We're going to take down the government." No. Just with your friends, have a discussion and say, "Hey, what do you think of this? Let's obviously have a left perspective of it and say oh, I wish I could do something." It's well, you can. You and I can do something. Let's talk about it. Let's, instead of communicating over Facebook, let's use what did you recommend?
That Wicker.
Signal and Wicker.
Yeah. Let's switch
And-
over
Or-
to using Signal and Wicker as opposed to Facebook and
Yeah,
and
or
Twitter.
in person.
in person.
Yeah, in person. And-
One thing I really want to say is like, I live in Alabama. There's not much in Alabama. There's like a community garden that's run by an ANCOM around here, and then there's AK Press,
Mhm.
and that's it
Yeah. I'd say
that I know of.
when it comes to forming your own group, what I would say is do not look like don't try and aim to if you're just starting out, don't aim to recruit from the public. Do not aim to recruit from the public.
You,
Recruit from people who are already radical and who are already have got that conviction in their beliefs, because when
wait
push
till you
comes to
have
shove,
people,
when push comes to shove, you want people who are going to stand by your side no matter what happens. You're not going to want people who are going to run away at the last, at the last moment and maybe call the cops on you. You don't want that. And in all honesty, for those who are interested, I would definitely say if you can check out the Popular Front documentary, Ukraine's Anarchist Militants by Jake Hanrahan. It's a fucking cracking documentary. It's about a 25-minute watch. That will give you some, especially like with the way Australia's going just now, it will give you some like pointers and tips on like what you should be doing and like things you can do as a group. And in terms of just starting your own group, I'm going to say building close bonds and friendship is equally as important as getting your name out there and getting it spread, and showing your commitment to the cause and like building ideological bonds. Building personal bonds is also incredibly
community,
important.
organization, and the strength of social ties.
Exactly.
One big family, my dudes.
Exactly.
That's the
Yeah.
goal. Oh.
I would
we're all in
love
this together,
to,
gang.
actually do some local organizing, but I literally know absolutely no one who I could even potentially talk into
Trust.
something like that.
Let alone trust, I assume.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's just literally no one.
I think that's why just myself I feel building the international left is more important than ever, because we've got comrades in isolated areas where they don't have any other comrades around them. So having lines of communication and organization across the internet through Signal and Wicker and whatnot is even more important today now than ever, because we've got Dip Dap in Bama, where there's just one other ANCOM, and you've got myself in like regional Victoria, where there's one other anarchist friend of mine. That's it. There's just two of us. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm somewhere in fucking Arizona. The only place that seems to have anything going for it whatsoever is Phoenix, and that's like a ridiculously long way to drive to get over to anything, and I can't drive anyways, so it's just completely inaccessible. The only thing I found in my area was a Facebook group that just occasionally posted like, hey, this person could use some funding, and like, that's all well and good, but it's nothing.
It's only so much.
Yeah, it's not any kind of actual organization or anything I'd actually be looking for, and it's just like, okay then.
It's great, but like, it's not gonna
Yeah.
really do anything in the long run.
Well,
And we need to do things in the long run.
Aye.
Hmm.
What I will say is, on a closing note, the best groups out there are the ones that A, you can't just join, and B, the ones that you build yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Build local affinity groups and, network as much as you can, and honestly just build your groups slowly, because at the end of the day, quality matters over quantity.
Yep.
Quality of membership, quantity of different groups.
I should probably talk about eventually I'll talk about this kind of stuff with like my sociological stuff of like the strength of social ties that we talk about in there a lot.
Hmm.
All right.
of primary, secondary, and tertiary ties.
Does before we cap this off, anybody want any last words? Anybody want to plug their YouTube channel or Twitter?
Fuck living in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Fuck that.
And
Fuck living
Trots
in Alabama.
and
Fuck YouTube. Fuck Trots. Fuck Crowder. Fuck Brexit. Fuck Boris Johnson.
have a
For
wonderful
freedom,
evening.
communism,
everyone.
And fuck the hard border.
For freedom, communism, and the Gallic Free Territory.
Hey.
A man can dream.
All right. Well, I guess if that's everything, I want to thank everybody for joining us in the chat, and I especially want to thank DipDap, Porku, Crypto Rob, and Senna for joining us. Please like and subscribe, and everybody in the chat, come join us on our Discord server. I've just plonked the link in the chat, and there should be one in the description as well.
And don't forget, if you want to donate to our Patreon.
Yes, don't forget to donate to our Patreon. You can also do a one-off donation to the donation.
The Ko-fi?
No, the
I think we have.
donation link linked with
yeah.
Labs. Yeah, that link will be down in the description as well. Momentarily, it should have been there from the start. Apologies, Eugene. Yeah. So, good night, everybody.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Right.
night. See ya.
Good night, everybody. Have a good